Operation Juoksukalja is in English beer run. It means the event when you are a teenager and you run into the store to steal a six-pack and run away with it. We thought that was a funny reference to going to the Russian market of all the stations and run away with one of their beer-filled stations. Way before the operation started, we started burning wormholes just to make a war chest. I think every week we burned 1 or 2 wormholes. About 3 months it took, and then we had 130 billion ISK gathered, and some ships already moved to low security space. CS Alliance, which is a CeskoSlovenska Alliance, has been our friends for ages, so we asked them to join us. In the end, the whole operation consisted Suddenly Content, Arctic Light and CeskoSlovenska Aliance. In the beginning of the op, we approached Unspoken Alliance, who were already assaulting Etherium Reach, and proposed to help them with the op. After some negotiation, they accepted us in, and to our surprise we ended up also having an alliance with 2 other wormhole groups, Laserhawks and Suddenly Spaceships. About 2 months before the patch date, where the new station would become unanchorable, we started moving ships to be ready in our low-sec staging point near Etherium Reach. We also sent scouts to Etherium Reach so we would know what was coming. Op was starting to look good. It became quickly clear that we couldn't conquer the space from our low-sec staging with snuffed out living next door, so move to our own constellation was initiated. It took 2 weeks to move the ordeal to a new home. Our first time ever to live in nullsec. Initially, we came to the nullsec, we had no idea about the political environment and who is who. So in the beginning of the op, we had a meeting with the coalition, sort of to share the cake and to understand the region. After our move to our new staging, a new enemy, Skill Yourself and Volta, moved just a couple jumps to our east. But luckily now, Snuffed Out was far to our west. So Unspoken Alliance was staged from the southwest corner from a system called Sahad. Suddenly Spaceship was holding the south in the middle, and we were supposed to hold the northeast corner, while Laserhawks were southeast below us. Our enemy, the Protheans, were holding the center of the region where they held firmly. It was a hub that connected the whole region to other regions. The Prothean Alliance was actually pretty good. They had several good FCs and they flied expensive ships, and were good at doing everyday PvP. Their form-ups were not as big as ours, but they still managed to hold the area quite long. In the first days of our operation, we went and fought with all the enemies to figure out what and how they were flying. That did not go exactly well, so we adjusted our doctrines to match with the coalition and quickly learned how to operate as a larger group. There were a couple of big brawls, but they ended up in dreads being dropped on us. Snuffed nightmares were also a problem. We could never really break them. As a response to the dread threat and nightmares, we brought in a few dozen capitals through wormholes, but they ended up never being used in real combat. The Serenity was never an objective for us. We were there only for the stations. We captured the stations, and those were the timers that concerned us. But accidentally, and because it was boring, we suddenly ended up having Sovereignty as well. We did not actually know what to do with it, so we installed some TCUs and IHOPs just to try it out. We tried ratting and doing sites, but it was so bad ISK we don't understand how people can deal with it. After the patch date, there was a 7-day period when all the shields of the new Fortizars were vulnerable around the clock. We are in the European Alliance, so we could not be online around the clock. One thing we were afraid really happened. Skill Yourself came with a super and a titan and reinforced one of our Fortizars. This was the first time they were attacking us, so we had to prepare for the possibility that they will attack all of our Fortizars and try capture them while we were extracting. So we gathered all of our allies with capital support and formed a 100-man fleet for the armored army. They scouted it and decided not to act. After 7 days of unanchoring, the Fortizar would turn into a container. We had to figure out how to get the container off the grid and safety as fast as possible. Five of the 6 Fortizars were supposed to unanchor at the very same second. We had teams in each system with specific ships which would do the scooping. In training, we managed to get the extraction time down to 48 seconds. But when the day came, the servers crashed. We got lucky. CCP transferred those 5 Fortizars to high-sec space because of the extended downtime that day. Day after this, the last and final station came out, and the situation was different. Enemies were everywhere in our pocket at all times. There were Sinoals looking at the situation, and enemies were expecting us to do something. We tried to pretend we were not doing anything special, so we held a gate camp 3 jumps out. 3 specially chosen people, just in all silence, scooped the station out, and operation became a success. It is the same game. Even line is the same game everywhere. But if you have lived in Wormhole a long time and you don't know 0-0 mechanics, it's a completely new experience to go there and do that. The diplomatics, the having a coalition, having to join between different comms just to get the fleets to work together, controlling area and targeting objectives instead of just fighting on a wormhole, it's a completely different experience. Really want to thank CS Alliance for being such a cool people. Without them, I don't think we could have captured the whole constellation, which we did. Maybe a part of it, maybe none of it, but without them we definitely would not have been the biggest part of our coalition. I think it made the whole alliances closer to each other, and we learned a lot of new skills and tricks, and it gave us new tools to use in the future. And that was really enjoyable to see that in the end we were all super excited that we actually made the operation a success. After burning all the wormholes just to make the war just happen, we had about 130 billion ISK that was to be used for this operation. All of it was used to buy ships, equipment and stations to protect everything. About 40% of it was lost. Majority of the losses were of course PvP ships. Second largest loss was jump freighter fuel, and third largest loss was actually the ratting ships that we did not know how to fly. Altogether, 60% of the ISK was returned to Jita and sold, and actually made partial profit from it. The Faction Fortizars, on an average 80 billion a piece, turns out 320 billion on top of that, so we're looking at a profit margin about 500%, which is 380 billion.